This video is going to be about directional flow of energy, which I believe I can prove fairly well, that the energy goes up and through the plant and out one side. In these three branches and in these two branches, I'm going to show you that now. So it starts out as a thumb-sized branch here. And then once it starts to burn, it's full circle right here, but quickly burns down to a thin reed down at the end where it looks like reeds that grow out of water. But all three of these branches start out a full-size branch about the size of your thumb. Now they only burn on the one side, going all the way up to the very tip. They only burn on the one side, and on that same side that they have burned, you can see this line where it hasn't begun to burn it down and charcoal it, but it is still just remaining a full thumb-sized branch. You can see that this burn line, along with one on this branch as well, is in alignment with the burn side of the branch. So I believe the electricity, this is the part that was in the ground. So the electricity comes from the ground up through the branch and out one direction or another. In this case, it was out that direction. Because you can see, there we go, we'll just twist it a couple times. You can see the burn line that runs generally out this side. Now I'm going to show you both instances. I'm going to show you some where the burn line actually spirals around the branch, so you can see that it's not actually going through the branch and exiting in one specific direction. It's going through the branch and following a specific set of fibers as they curl around the branch, such as these and this one. You can see that it does two full 360 corkscrews as it goes up through that branch. There's one of them, and the other one's down here. So on this one, it does two full 360 corkscrews, and the burn line follows the corkscrews. And there are others. This one on the ground does a corkscrew, and the burn line follows the corkscrew. We're going to look at those. But on those, it appears the grounding effect is not strong enough to draw it out of the plant in a very specific direction. I'm going to show you this same burn line effect on telephone poles from my neighbor's house, car fire that I recently took the video of that proves there was a car fire, where on the trees they have this straight burn line that proves it was a plasma fire. And that begs the question, were those directed energy weapon attacks, or is this more of a natural release phenomenon? Because if they direct your attention, more like a directed attention weapon, to direct your attention toward these directed energy, so you think it's all under control, someone's pulling those levers. Because if you direct your attention towards a pole shift, you think that's out of control, and then you become out of control. The public becomes out of control. So I'm going to show you that on those two instances where I'm talking about, you can show the flow of energy goes up through the plant or the telephone pole and then out in one direction. Or the other option is that it comes in from that direction. But I think I've pretty much provably shown that's not the case. So on this one, we see the same effect with the burn line on both of these branches, going up both branches in the same direction, this one and that one. You can see which way the direction was. And on this one you can see, if I could focus, the burn line is very straight going up both sides. And this one burned it to a thin reed, just like the other three we just looked at. unburnt on this underside, burnt on this side. So this one exhibits two of the same patterns. One, the fact that it burns it to a point, a fine point, this reed. That you can see at the tip is no thicker than the end of my fingernail, but started out as a branch that big, and it was fully round. And then the burn follows the underside here and burns it to a thickness that of like a fingernail, but started out as a fully round branch. So it exhibited like at least two or three of the same patterns. Burns it only on one side to a thin reed at the end. When it started out as a fully round branch, about the size of your thumb. So this one, you can obviously see that the directional flow of the energy was up and through it and out this way on both branches. And it presumably had these type of smaller branches sticking out this side as well, but those are all gone. So other than the tips of each of these branches, you can see that this side is completely unburned. Other than the tips of the branches, but between the tip where it burns right here and here, there's unburned area. So that just started sizzling out that end and burning this way, while the other side was burning completely gone. Same exact thing that happened to these reeds, or what were actually branches that burned to the thin reeds on the end. So now I'm going to show you the same directional flow and the way I got the idea. It was from right here. It was right here, and this gives me a chance to show off all my plasma wood that we'll look closer at later. There are some new cool ones that offers a lot of new understandings. But it's as I was sitting here looking at this, notice it's light on this side and dark on this side. And it looks just like those power poles where they're burnt on one side. In this case, it's dark on the left and light on the right. They're burnt on one side. This one actually came from my neighbor's house, where I'm going to show you there were two telephone poles, only burnt on one side. That side overlaps a little bit. This side runs perfectly along the manufactured edge, like a shadow line. And that's what I'm showing you here. It burns exactly like a shadow line on a square post or on a round post. In this case, you can see that it's perfectly unburned on this side, right to the edge, all the way down. Perfectly burned on this side, right to the edge, all the way up. So this burn line runs perfect along the manufacturer's edge. Okay? This other one overlaps that manufacturer's edge by about an inch, but still runs a straight line all the way down. And overlaps that manufacturer's edge by an inch. So, in the case of understanding this as a shadow, the light is coming from either here, the light bulb, or there, doesn't really matter. It's coming from that direction and hitting this round pipe, whether it be a telephone pole or a stovepipe, creating a shadow line exactly 90 degrees off of the light source. So it lights up this side of a round post, and right there at the edge, the light beams miss it and go right by it. So there's a straight line. If that were a burning hot light coming from that direction, it would burn on that side with a straight line coming down. That's exactly what happened to two of the telephone poles we're about to look at my neighbor's house with the straight line burn, where I took this post from that you're also going to see in the same video at my neighbor's house where the two telephone poles are. This post matches what you would see as a light shadow as well. From this direction, you're only going to hit with the light one side. Anywhere from right here, you're hitting both sides with the light. Clear over to here, you're still hitting both sides with the light, pretty much evenly. Right here, you're only hitting this side with the light. If the light's coming directly from the camera, you're only hitting one side now. Two sides from this point, clear over to this point. You're still hitting two sides with the light. From right there, it's directly in alignment with the light source if the light is the camera, and you're only hitting one side. In the case of this burn, you hit both sides. Anywhere from right here, you would only burn this side. If it was a light coming from the outside, you would only burn this side. From this point, you'd be burning both sides with the light coming from the camera if it was a red hot light. Clear over to here. If it was a red hot light, you'd still be burning both sides. Right there, you would only be burning this side. And I believe I can tell you exactly where the angle of light came from because it overlapped this side by an inch, but it burned this side perfectly. Did not overlap at all. Right down the manufacturer's edge, up and down. So that means the light source came from, instead of directly in alignment with this corner, a little bit more this way. That's why it overlapped this edge and left this edge perfect. Because the light source, if you will, and I don't think it was a light source, I think it's the grounding source is directly in alignment with the camera. But instead of being directly in alignment with this corner, it was over this way, just about right here. This is the angle this square board got hit from if it were a light from the outside. That's why it overlaps this edge a little bit and leaves that edge perfect, because it's just a little bit left of center. Instead of center with the corner, to burn both sides evenly, it hit from this angle if it were an external light source coming from the outside. I believe it's an internal light source coming from the inside, grounding outward, usually towards the sun. Like I told the old man down here that was a plasma fire denier, until I turned him and talked him into the truth and he joined the bandwagon. That telephone pole looks like energy's coming up through it and grounding out with the sun and a little bit with that metal pole that's standing right by it, and that's why it's got a little brown stripe parallel with the pole that stands by it, because a little bit of that energy is coming out and grounding with that pole, arcing. Like invisible, mild background, ambient level energy, not arcing, like mild arcing. So, let me show you some of these videos now and where this pole came from. And the telephone poles, remember the light source demonstration. The light's coming straight from this source, so it's going to light both sides evenly. It's coming from, well, actually, now I'm in alignment with the actual light source up here. It's going to light both sides evenly, but with the light coming from this direction, exactly 90 degrees off from the light source, is going to be the shadow line of these telephone poles that are right next to where I pulled this square post from. And the roadside barbecue that we're about to check out, where I pulled this piece of metal from, has tree limbs, 6 or 8 or 10 of them, all with the burn line pointing the same direction. No matter which way the limb points, they all have tree limbs with a burn line and a burn side all pointing in the same direction, which proves The barbecue that produced this was a plasma fire. So this is my neighbor's house where you're about to see that square pole that we just looked at. And not only am I calling it plasma fire as I walk up on it, I called it plasma fire before I even looked at it, because I was making a video while the fire department showed up and started to put it out. And as I was making that video, I said I think he might have gotten hit. He wasn't taking care of his property. So you can talk about directed energy. Some of it is directed, and if we got to blast it off in a few spots to keep people distracted, to keep them from noticing that there's a pole shift, well, somebody's got to do it, and someone might as well make some insurance money off it or something. I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm just saying there's a little bit of directed energy and a lot that's out of control. But I was making a video while his house lit up. I'll include that link in the description. It's called Red Pill Laws. Yes, red pill laws are meant to confiscate your soul, not your guns. And it was talking about those red flag laws. Anyway, so in this video, at the very beginning, I referenced that video that I was making as his house lit on fire. And I called it when I said I think he might have gotten hit with the plasma, like in a directed way, because he wasn't keeping his property up. But you're about to see that square pole that we just looked at. This is the neighbor's house that burned earlier while I was making the recording. This is the neighbor's house that burned earlier while I was making the recording. And I'm about to show you that it was 100% certainly plasma fire. See how it's burnt on the inside? See this pole over here? Oh. See this pole here? Burnt 100% on that side. Not on this side, you see? You following me? See the line? See the line? Likewise here. Now you can hear the people running saws in the background. This is right after the fire happened. This piece right here that literally splits the burned side from the unburned side on this telephone pole is like a piece of corner molding that covers a copper wire. And that piece of corner molding was split perfectly with a burn line that goes right down it. It's only about a 1/2 inch wide on each side, and it covers this little copper wire that goes down. Might even be like for grounding purposes or whatever. But even that small piece of 1 inch wide, it's no more than 2 inches wide at the most. This little piece that covers that copper wire, and it's in an L shape, and it covers that wire. It burned perfectly right down the middle of that molding in alignment with the wire beneath it. And I come back the next day. I'll include that link in the description as well. But what I'm showing you here is that it does the shadow line burn on both these round poles and that square pole next to it. Now, granted, you can see that the square pole, where the direction, because of where it was planted, apparently it grounds back towards those other two poles. But those two poles kind of ground towards each other. So if they're all pointing towards one central location, I'm not sure how to track it, but you can see a directional flow of the energy. The only question is it a powerful light hitting it from the outside, leaving this shadow line? Or the light is coming from the inside and going out in that direction? Sorry. Okay. Here, we'll get a good spot and pause it here in a second. So they're just... So here we can see the perfectly burned line, which means the direction of the energy was just the other side of this manufactured edge, according to my theory, because this right here in front of us, as where I've paused it, is the perfectly burned edge, and the opposite side of us is the one that had a little bit of overlap. So the direction of the energy where this was flowing is just the other side, like in the center of the three, where we have a telephone pole here, one over here behind the square pole, and the square pole. And the square pole's energy was coming up and going out in the direction of these other two poles behind it. See the line? see the line. Likewise here. Sorry, I will stop that again. That's so annoying. So this particular video is only about 8 minutes long, and it is the day of the fire as everyone's out there trying to cut stuff down, and I'm trying to be real quiet and cautious and not seem insensitive to his loss, but he wasn't even there when it happened. My point is, the next day I come back and do a more thorough investigation, and that square post has been removed. Why did that need removed? Because it was such an eyesore, and it was someone who wanted to suppress this truth that removed it. And you can see the very next day, that's exactly what I say about how quickly they've cleaned it up. And I didn't find that square post on the ground until a few months later, where they'd thrown it off in the bushes. So they're just boarding it up for him. But I'm going to show you a couple other things over here. Listen to what I say. See that? All the signatures. And the fact that I was saying what I was saying, when I was saying it, when this happened, is the way things work in mysterious ways. What I'm referring to there is the fact that I was making a video when this lit up, and I said, I think he got hit with an energy fire. 100% zero. 100% zero. And he did get hit with an energy fire. You seen the signatures yet? No doubt about it. It's all over his yard. Seen this before. Okay. Now, the fact that I said this guy might have been targeted without even having seen it is really bizarre. Okay, so I'm going to try. I said there, the fact that I said that this guy may have been targeted without even having seen it is kind of bizarre. Again, I was referring to the fact that I said I think he got hit with a dew while I was making a video as the thing started up. So in this video that I'm recording while my neighbor's house lights on fire and the fire engines start to show up, and I say that I think he might have gotten hit, is the very video where I go from calling them directed energy weapon fires to just calling them plasma fires. And I say so right at the very beginning of the video. Was I? Oh, yeah. That whole victim economy and the sympathy economy. You'll notice I got sidekick. That whole victim economy and the sympathy economy. You'll notice I got sidekick tree here next to me. Oh, and Benjamin's got sidekick bear. I'm going to have sidekick tree. Reason video, I'm going to go up the mountain and show you. Oh, and Benjamin's got sidekick bear. I'm going to have sidekick tree. The reason I put it there is because after this video, I'm going to go up the mountain and show you some more of these, what I've been calling directed energy weapon fires. But from now on, I'm going to just call them plasma fires, because I'm not sure if this energy is being directed and by whom. So we'll just call them plasma fires, because it could be a naturally occurring. So you'll see that that was the, that's the kind of thumbnail photo they used to give me every time, is one of those still framed dumbfounded images. But what I'm saying is that I've been saying that again recently, that most people don't even know about a naturally occurring version of this. All they're stuck on is directed energy weapon. So the video I take the first day right after it happened, where the square post is still standing, is this one called Jack Johnson, Which Way Will You Run? That song is all about the sun. Around the sun, some say, is going to be the new hell, some say. It's still too early to tell, some say. It really ain't no myth at all. Which way will you run when it's always all around you? When the feeling's lost and found you again, the feeling that we have no control. That's why they want you to think directed energy weapon. On that same day, as this plasma fire started at my neighbor's house, is the very day I was reconsidering calling them directed energy weapon, and I speak about it further on in that video with the guy with the spiffy tie. That's the thumbnail on that video that I'm making while I'm reconsidering what I'm going to call them from now on. And I'm getting ready to go look at the one that happened right above my house, which I will also include the links in the description. That was indeed a plasma fire. They've happened above my house, in Provo Canyon, in Springville Canyon, in Spanish Fork Canyon, at my neighbor's house, and I'm about to show you the vaporized vehicle where that melted metal came from. Shows the same directional flow of energy through the trees, which melted that car. So I walk up on what I can see is a plasma fire and a car that burned right here in the road. And the directional flow of energy in all these trees, the energy goes up and toward the direction of where the car burned. This is a fine specimen of plasma fire. And there's something very unique going on here with the road. So I'll walk back over here while this person drives by and just show you all the evidence everywhere here in this one little small spot of plasma fire. But the road right here looks like a car started on fire. In fact, you can see all the... Looks like a car started on fire. In fact, you can see all the... These are what's left of the steel-belted radial tires. This is what happens in plasma fire. It reduces the tire to this. This is one of the effects that I've seen multiple times. It looks like a car caught fire right here. It looks like a car caught fire right here, right? And I'm going to show you on the back of my truck where the satellite receiver sits, that I believe that guy's truck. So the steel-belted radials acting as antenna also has come up in a recent video. What I explained there is that I think maybe the satellite receiver on a semi-truck is what picked up the microwave signal and it latched onto that and melted half of his truck a week ago. But anyway, I'm going to skip to the part where I show you the directional flow of energy on those trees. A bunch of white stuff on the ground. And a couple fire
The stuff
engines.
they sprayed on the truck to put out the fire, and half of the cab was missing. And I'm going to explain how I think, once I get up there to the truck and show you where they mount the satellite receivers on all of these, that's what happened. His receiver picked up the EMFs. And as he drove through that EMF field, where I filmed my first live plasma fire, 5 miles down the road, half of his truck was missing, half the cab was missing. Or he was the target, and as he drove by the place where I ended up filming live plasma fire, these things picked up the EMFs, and I jumped out and filmed the plasma fire, and then 5 miles down the road, I see his truck. Anyway, so you can see there is a circle of burn area right here. And you can see all of these trees are burned only on the street-facing side with a straight line going all the way up the tree. Most people would say, that tree burned because a car started on fire right there. When you see this, you know there's more to the picture than that. This tree is also burned only on the street-facing side. But I want to show you these lines real quick, because these are very distinct and good examples
of the directional flow of energy.
Goes all the way up the tree like that, burnt on one side. Like a shadow line. If the light, where's my finger? If the light was hitting the round tree from this side, there would be a shadow line right there. Or if the electricity was coming up through the tree and going out one side, it would produce that same burn line. The light is coming from the inside and then grounding toward that direction, as opposed to light coming from that side, hitting it right here and leaving a shadow line. That is a shadow line. But I believe the light is coming from the inside, ground up. Okay. All the way up the tree. All the way up both these trees. So they both got straight line burn, as well as this one. As well as this one back here. You can see the straight line right there. The mystery about this one is the car.
So, as I was pointing out, if the direction of the light came from the car, it would produce the same shadow on that telephone pole. So it's like the main grounding was going on right there, and the energy drawn up from the earth, the excess that got over into those trees, was then, they're all pointing in the direction of that car that burned, is what I'm saying. Which direction the energy flows, it's hard to say. Was it a trailer that was pulled over? Who knows? But it was definitely a plasma fire, so now the question is, was it directed? I don't think so. I think if anything, they might be directing these things out in the middle of nowhere into unpopulated areas when ground current reaches a level that they know it's going to breach the threshold and start ignition on the surface. That's when they say, okay, release the valve over here, off in that cow pasture, that rock quarry, or wherever where it's not populated. And this is all trying to manage and mitigate the effects of the weakening magnetic field. That's a very good possibility.
It was right here.
The link will be in the description for this video to watch the rest.
Was the car in the crosshairs and pulled over here? I don't know what happened. I'm taking guesses, you guys. But this is plasma fire, and a car got smoked right there. That's one of the spindle for the axle, I would think. And you could see how rusted it was, which is the electrolysis that we speak of in these plasma fires. And 9/11 was the original first directed energy, and that was obviously directed. And there was a Cheeto effect where these giant iron beams were sticking up out of the pile with inches of rust on them, which happened during the process. Electrolysis. This is what our metallurgist friend in the Northeast, Mr. Mental Boost, says is occurring with the rust on these cars. Like this one from Lytton, British Columbia, that happened recently. Or this one from Lytton. Again, you see the rust on the top of the car there. Those are what they use as the thumbnail. And this is one of the images that is thrown into the Neil Young version of After the Gold Rush, where you can clearly see it's plasma fire because there's still trees sticking up out of the rubble for as far as the eye can see. And this is the verse where it says the sun burst through the sky. I was thinking of something a friend once said, and I was hoping it was a lie. And a minute ago I referred to Jack Johnson singing about Around the Sun, some say is going to be the new hell. Some say it's solar plasma doing this, by the way. It's still too early to tell, some say. It really ain't no myth at all. Keep asking ourselves, are we really strong enough? We got so many things that we got too proud of. I want to take the preconceived out from underneath your feet. We can shake it off, and instead we'll plant some seeds. Watch them as they grow, and with each new beat from your heart, the roots grow deeper. The branches, will they reach for what? Nobody really knows. And underneath it all, there's this heart alone. But what about when it's gone? Oh, it really won't be so long. Sometimes it feels like a heart is no place to be singing from at all. So Jack Johnson was telling us about this. Here in this Neil Young, After the Gold Rush, is when they took off in the spaceships with Mother Nature's silver seed to a new home in the sun. These are the Muse messages for this video.